when you're in Portugal, you may run across this issue of not understanding why everyone is taking a break at their business for 2 hours during the workday. It can be very confusing, and speaking as a family who has been in Portugal for a while now, it doesn't really get any easier to understand if you're not from here. So we're from Canada, and we've traveled around, but so here we had to get used to this idea that around 1:30, 2 o'clock, most businesses just shut down. And I mean shut down, like they don't have an open door. There's no way you go in. Like the businesses, some will actually draw their shutters. And their business hours, if you are interested, you can look up what I'm talking about online. Just look up any business in Portugal and look at their hours, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. So at first, being from Canada, we were really critical, and it's really hard to understand. Like, how at a restaurant are you shutting down for lunch? So it's very weird here that there are very few restaurants that will stay open for lunch, and some even close for supper, which, again,
They take a break from 3 to 6 often. They'll do 12 to 3.
Yeah.
And then 6 to 9 or 6 to midnight or
yeah.
whatever.
So it's really hard to get used to, and I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just saying, as an average Canadian coming here, I mean, I still, after all this time, we find it very hard to understand and hard to get used to. You can say it's the now uma siesta. They're not on their siesta. Of course,
They don't call it siesta.
They don't call it a siesta because this is not Mexico, and it's definitely not Spain. So don't call it the siesta to the locals. They don't want to call it the siesta. They will call it the lunch break or the trabalho pausa, right? Pausa or pausa de trabalho. They'll call it the lunch break. But most places, especially government buildings, we've been told many, many times, come back at 2, right? And we look at each other at this point, we're like, come back at 2, So I don't even know where to start. In the heat of summer, this makes sense because it's really hot between the hours of 11 and 3, specifically around lunchtime. It'll get hot, and I understand that people want to duck out, grab a drink like a super bock. People drink here at lunch, and it's just totally okay, I guess.
And at breakfast.
And at breakfast, yeah. People are just drinking alcohol here all the time. That's a whole other thing that's hard to get used to. But I just want to tell you that you should be mentally prepared for this if you come to Portugal, that the entire country basically has agreed to shut down, like physically everything gets shut down and is not open for most local Portuguese businesses for the lunch break, which can differ on some subtle variations in time, but I would say it's about 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's about what, from 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, right? Sometimes it's...
Oh, well, could be 12:30 to 2.
Could be, we've seen a few different things.
Restaurants will be 3 to 6.
The most confusing things is when restaurants are closed for... I mean, we're from the restaurant industry in Canada, so I cannot imagine, like, the nervous breakdown in management that we would have if we were told that at lunch for 2 hours at a restaurant, we have to close the front door. Like, I get anxious thinking about that. Because, like, to us, coming from Canada, closing the door on a business is literally telling people, we don't want your money.
Yeah.
And then opening it 2 hours later, we want your money now. And then a few hours later, sorry, we don't want your money again. And people are just standing there like, I have money and I want food. So it's really confusing. And here, I guess, the general... Like, when they close the doors, are you getting the impression that they don't want your money here?
Yep.
Do you get that impression? Or is it just like, this is what we do? It's freaking hot and we want to break. You get the impression like, your money's no good here.
Well, the thing is coming from Canadian consumerist society that just expects all service providers to always be there and ready. It's confusing from there. But from a more healthy European attitude of actually respecting humans as human,
Yeah.
I think it's a really great thing to allow your workers to not be cooking in a hot kitchen during the hottest hours of the day.
Right.
Know? So it's a little bit of both because I've been in both spaces for so long. So I understand this Canadian urge to need everything now. And it can be super frustrating when like a lawyer or an accountant is on a 2-hour lunch break and you're like, I just need you to send me a 1-minute email.
You think that you have something really important going on, like you've lost all your ID and you're stuck at the embassy and you're about to get deported and Interpol might come after you. You think that's really important. And like objectively it might be kind of important, but let's just stop for 2 hours.
Just come back at 2.
And have an espresso. Come back at 2 and we'll talk about it.
It'll give you time to get your photos taken.
It might not be that important. And you're like
yeah. So, and here, I don't know, I understand, and I have been in Spain a lot of times, and the siesta is really necessary in the hot summer. I feel like August and July are similar here. So I understand if people don't want to be, in the burning sun working away.
Yeah. So something to be mentally prepared for if and when you come to Portugal, that this is something that even us, after all this time in Portugal, we still are like, oh yeah, they're doing the thing. Because we cannot gear ourselves into stopping our lives for 2 hours. Like at this point, it might take us another 5 to 10 years. I don't know. Like I'm 42. I'm kind of set in my ways. I don't stop what I'm doing for 2 hours a day to just have a siesta, a super bock, a padresh or whatever. I don't even drink booze, so I just feel like there's 2 hours and it's hot, but like we should be doing something. But that's me, so I'm just letting you know, even for me, it's been hard to get used to. With all that being said, we're going to take a little pausa de trabalho. Obrigado. Ciao, ciao. I'm off